Alright, welcome back to the front lines. You think that 1000-watt smile you just got is because of your brilliant personality? Let me tell you what that really is. That's the starting pistol for a 6-month race to the bottom of your bank account. This isn't a friendly guide. This is a field manual for surviving a war you don't even know you're fighting. I'm going to give you the rules, the non negotiable laws of this jungle. Pay attention, because if you don't, you'll be buying my next coffee with the loose change you have left. I see you. You're probably between 30 and 60, maybe fresh off a nasty divorce that took half your world, or just bone tired of the silence in your apartment back west. You have a bit of money saved up, your war chest, your retirement, your one last shot at feeling wanted. You came here looking for warmth, for a soft touch, for someone to make you feel like a king again. But your time is limited. Your resources are finite, and the clock is ticking louder than you think. Every mistake from here on out has a price tag. Let's be clear. Dating in the Philippines is like playing poker, but you've been invited to a backroom, high stakes table where you don't speak the language and everyone else knows your hand before the cards are even dealt. You think you're betting on love and connection, putting a few chips down for a shared future. But what you're really pushing into the pot is your house, your savings, your entire goddamn future. And in this game, there are no buybacks. Every chip you lose is gone for good. You've been warned. The tragedy is that you walk in wanting to be a partner, but the system sees you as a target. You are an ATM, a walking, talking cash machine with a heartbeat. And the enemy isn't the woman with the beautiful eyes. It's the brutal, unspoken economic pressure that incentivizes her to drain you. It's a set of cultural rules that reward her for extracting every last peso, and your own hopeful stupidity that makes you a willing participant in your own financial execution. Your ego screams that you can't be played that easily. Your heart screams this is all too cynical. They're both wrong. I've sat at these tables my whole life. I've watched wide eyed foreigners, good men, get wiped out before the first cards are even dealt. I've seen them go from proud lions to broke, humiliated sheep in less time than it takes to get a tourist visa extension. I am giving you this intel not because I'm nice, but because I'm tired of seeing the same slaughter over and over again. My authority doesn't come from a book, it comes from watching the wreckage pile up firsthand. I know the plays because I know the players. So, you have to ask yourself a question before you make your next move, before you even send that next good morning message. Are you here to play a game of romance or a game of survival? Because you can't win both. The dream she's selling you and the reality of what it will cost you are two different worlds, and you're standing right on the border. What do you really want? The fantasy that will bleed you dry, or the cold, hard rules that will let you walk away with your skin intact? Love, sex, or survival? Alright, let's get this map of the kill zone drawn up. The first mistake you make is thinking your only opponent is the woman across the table. Punyeta, you are so wrong. Your real enemies are the other white guys sitting at the bar, just as thirsty and desperate as you are. You see them, you size them up. Another balding dude in a bad shirt, and your ego writes a check your bank account can't cash. You think, I can win this. So you start throwing money around to prove it, and just like that, you're in a bidding war. This isn't about charming her, it's about outspending the other guy. You're not buying her a drink. You're making a down payment on a disastrous precedent. I watched a guy from Australia, sunburned and sweating, try to impress a girl by ordering the most expensive bottle of champagne in a dive bar. The other foreigner, a quiet German, just smirked. The girl? She took the champagne, smiled, and spent the rest of the night texting someone else. You didn't win her over. You just became the idiot who set the price floor for the evening. Number 2. You're so starved for validation, you'd pay for it by the hour. When she looks you in the eyes and says, You're so much more of a gentleman than Filipino men. That's not a compliment. That's a financial probe. It's an invoice. She's testing your reflexes. A friend of mine, a sweet guy from Texas, heard that line and within an hour, he was sending $500 for a sick grandmother. He wasn't funding an emergency. He was paying for a single weaponized sentence designed to unlock his wallet. Then comes the most basic ambush in the playbook, and you walk right into it. Error number 3. You desperately want to be the hero. A text arrives. My little brother needs a new uniform for school, only 2,000 pesos. You practically trip over yourself to send double, maybe triple that amount. You feel like a provider, a protector, a big shot. You're none of those things. You're just the guy who failed the simplest intelligence test she could possibly run. You prove that your loneliness is a bigger force than your common sense. You think you're being generous, but what you're really doing is showing her exactly how to press your buttons. You've confirmed that you're an easy mark, a soft target whose need to feel important will always override his financial judgment. It's pathetic and it's predictable. And believe me, this is just the basic training, the easy stuff. The next mistake on this list is the one that doesn't just drain your bank account, it destroys your entire reputation. You think you've been played so far? You have no idea what's coming. Now, mistake number 4 is where the game gets personal, where it moves from your wallet to the inside of your skull. You think you're the captain of this ship, charting a course towards a beautiful future together. You are not the captain. You are a taxi, and the meter is always running. Every conversation about our house, our business, our kids is not a shared dream. It's her giving you directions to a destination you will pay for, but where you will never arrive. The moment you stop paying the fare, she gets out and hails another ride. And what happens when she senses you might stop the car? That brings us to the fifth and most venomous tactic, manufactured jealousy. She'll casually drop a story about an ex who's suddenly messaging her again, or a rich guy at the mall who tried to get her number. Anak nang, listen to me. This isn't a confession, it's a threat. It's her holding up a picture of your replacement to see if you'll flinch. She's creating a phantom competitor to make you double down, to remind you that you are disposable and can be easily upgraded if your performance slips. Which leads right into the sixth error, the one that makes you the architect of your own downfall. You become addicted to her approval. You get a rush when she calls you her king, her savior. But that praise isn't a gift. It's a key she is crafting to fit the lock on your bank account. She's not validating you, she's calibrating you. She learns exactly which words make you feel powerful. And then, like clockwork, she will present a problem that only your power, your money can solve. You're not paying for her needs, you're paying for the feeling she gives you. Do you see it now? The school uniform, the sick grandmother, the talk of the future, the ghost of the other guy. It's all the same play. It's a systematic dismantling of your self-worth, replacing it with a transactional validation that you have to purchase day after day. You are so busy trying to prove you are the captain that you don't realize you are just a passenger in your own life, and she is the one driving you straight to the slaughterhouse. You have been conditioned to trade money for a feeling of control. But here's the secret they don't want you to know, the one that can actually save you from this death spiral. It isn't about having more money, being younger, or being more handsome. It has nothing to do with her or the other guy sniffing around her. It has to do with you. The entire dynamic flips on its head the moment you realize what you're really trading away for her affection. The game changes completely when you finally stop negotiating with hope. You have to learn to negotiate with something else entirely. Enough. Enough with the diagnosis. You've been staring at the x-ray of your own broken bank account long enough to know the disease is real. Hope is the infection, and your wallet is bleeding out. Now, we stop analyzing the wound and we start applying the tourniquet. The secret to flipping this entire game isn't in your heart, it's a cold mechanical system, a protocol. This is the moment you stop being the patient and become the surgeon. This is where you take back control, not with grand gestures, but with brutal, simple rules. Forget being the captain of a ship. You are now the air traffic controller at a private airport. Your money, your time, your attention. That's the runway. Her projects, her dreams, her emergencies. Those are planes requesting clearance for takeoff. Your job is to deny clearance until a non negotiable pre flight checklist is complete. You are not here to pave the runway for her. You are here to protect your airspace from unauthorized flights. Every request she makes is a flight plan that must be vetted, scrutinized, and, most often, denied. Here is your checklist, your operational framework. Number 1, the filter. Every sob story, every request, every unexpected problem gets passed through a simple binary filter. Is this about survival or is it about lifestyle? Medicine for a sick mother might be survival. A new iPhone for her cousin is lifestyle. A broken roof is survival. A trip to Boracay with her friends is lifestyle. Wants are an automatic, unapologetic no. Only needs, real, verifiable needs, are even allowed to proceed to the next checkpoint. No emotion, no debate. If a request passes the filter as a potential need, you move to stage 2, the pressure test. You do not send money. You apply pressure by asking for details and, most importantly, by introducing a deliberate delay. Let me think on that. Send me the doctor's written diagnosis. What did the repairman say the exact cause was? A real crisis can withstand scrutiny. A hustle, a calculated emotional probe will fall apart under the slightest pressure. The story will change, the anger will flare, or another magical solution will suddenly appear. This is your new reality. This is your pre flight protocol. Filter, then test. The results will give you the only data that matters. You will see with perfect clarity whether you are dealing with a partner in crisis or a predator running a game. It's an undeniable emotion proof system. So, I want you to write this down: the runway, the filter, the test. Get it into your head, burn it into your brain, because in the next act, we're taking this framework out of the briefing room and into the field. This is the firefight. You're standing on one side of a ping pong table, and she's not just serving one ball, she's serving three at once. The phone buzzes. Babe, the landlord is threatening to kick my family out. Ball 1, money. At the same time, she's whispering how much she misses you, how no one makes her feel this safe. Ball 2, loneliness. Then she sends an old photo of you both smiling. Ball 3, nostalgia. Your move. The old you would panic, trying to hit all three balls back with a fistful of cash. But now, you hold your position. You let the balls come to you. You apply the framework. Landlord threat? Filter. Survival. Escalate to stage 2. Pressure test. That's serious. Send me the landlord's name and number. I'll speak to him directly. You don't offer money, you offer to solve the problem, which is the last thing a hustler wants. The whispers of loneliness, the photo, you acknowledge them, but you don't react. I miss you too. You refuse to connect your affection to her financial request. You unlink the transactions. The result is instant and revealing. The anger flares. You don't trust me. The accusations start. The affection vanishes. She wanted you to react to the emotional surges, to get you off balance so you'd fail the financial one. When you refused to play her chaotic game, you forced her to show her cards. You didn't just dodge a financial bullet, you exposed the entire strategy for what it is: a coordinated attack on your discipline. You prove the system works under fire, right when the psychological pressure is at its absolute peak. This is how you win. Not by outspending the other guy, but by outthinking the game itself. Every single crisis she throws at you is a probe, a ping pong serve designed to test your reaction time. The faster you hit the ball back with money, the more serves you will receive until you are exhausted and broke. By implementing a delay, a process, a filter, you are taking control of the rhythm of the game. You are forcing her to play at your speed, on your terms, and it will drive her absolutely insane. And that brings us to the final, most important law in this entire goddamn war. This is the one that changes everything. All the other rules are defensive maneuvers designed to protect your territory. This last rule is how you go on the offensive. It's how you stop being the one who is constantly tested and become the one who sets the test. This is the law that doesn't just save you money, it's the one that might actually get you the one thing you came here for in the first place. So let's review the battle plan, the filter to separate wants from needs, the pressure test to expose the hustle, unlinking your wallet from your heart. This is your new religion. Stop acting like a desperate flower, practically begging for any bee to land on you. You are not the flower, you are the goddamn garden. You control the nectar. She doesn't get access because she buzzes the loudest. She gets access when you decide she's earned it. She must prove she is here to pollinate, not just to drain you dry and fly away. Here is the final brutal truth. In this jungle, hope is not a strategy, it is a liability. Your affection is a currency more valuable than your cash, and you have been spending it on nothing. Your heart is a luxury you can't afford until your bank account is secure and your discipline is absolute. The choice was never between love and loneliness. It was always between being a strategic survivor who commands respect or another broke, forgotten fool who paid for a 6-month fantasy with his entire 30-year retirement plan. This is bigger than you now. This is for every man who is about to step off that plane with a hopeful, stupid smile on his face. If you've seen this playbook in action, if you've lived through one of these rules, I want you to drop a comment below with the rule number that hit you hardest. Warn the others. Like this video so the algorithm pushes it to the men who need it most. Subscribe because your next tour of duty depends on getting this intel before you even book your flight. And finally, this mission runs on fuel. This intel is not free. If this field manual just saved you from financial slaughter, show your support. Use the super thanks. Buy me a coffee. Fund the next briefing. A small tip today is the discount on the 6-figure tuition you were about to pay. Now, go out there, apply the framework, and for the first time, make her truly wet for a man with discipline. Stay sharp, stay solvent. This is your field manual. Over and out.